Hey guys, what's up? Skullzi here, and this is the second episode of Scribing the Scrolls with our scrolling scribes with Skullzi. We're here with
Panda
and Sam
and Skullzi. So our last episode was kind of centric on the settings we'd like to see in Elder Scrolls 6 and kind of why we might not see one for a while. This episode is going to be a little bit more relaxed. We're going to talk about some of our favorite moments of Elder Scrolls or some things that we would really like to see in Elder Scrolls 6. So stay with us and maybe enjoy the ride and the adventure of nostalgia and hype, as you can maybe share with us in the comments below, perhaps, possibly, maybe that's why they exist, of your favorite moments from Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind, Daggerfall, or Arena. Let us know in the comments below, or your mom's ho.
Oh.
Demonetized.
Demonetized.
So, Panda, let's give you the floor. What is something you definitely want to see in Elder Scrolls 6?
Well, I think that I would like to see some parkour. I want to see being able to use the environment in new and exciting ways that we really haven't been able to do before. Everybody's probably jumped off of a mountain and landed in some water, and that's all fine and dandy and fun. But I want to be able to escape giants by jumping off of boulders and have that kind of freedom of my environment. And I think I'd like to see that.
I'd like to see jumping, landing on the giant's head, and then jumping off his head and landing on a higher cliffside and running away.
Yeah.
Go on, Sam.
Well, I was gonna say, since I haven't played much, are there, elements already like that are similar to parkour? You're just asking for more extremism. Can you jump on rooftops or anything when you're...
Definitely you can get on top of things like that. That's not difficult to accomplish.
Just
However,
more fluidity?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever played the game Titanfall, but they did a really good job of being able to laterally use walls, right? There was I remember particularly using a wall to get out of death at one point in time, and I just thought that was a really unique experience, and I feel like Elder Scrolls could very easily break into that, and then that would bring something that no one has seen in the Elder Scrolls yet.
Initially, my first thought was Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
I love Assassin's Creed. Yeah, my first thought's Oblivion and obviously Morrowind, because you actually have the acrobatic skill. And one awesome thing about Oblivion and Morrowind is, as you would level up from novice to apprentice to journeyman to expert to master, you would gain a certain perk. And with acrobatics, the perks were always interesting. One of them was you could jump off the surface of water, and another one's no fall damage. So I used to be able to, let's say I was in a ruin in Oblivion, and I was getting ganged up on by a lot of evil bad guys. So I would just jump off a railing to land on a candelabra, I believe they're called, that's just suspended on the wall where you're not supposed to be able to get to, and I would just push backwards and kind of stand on one foot and just use magic just to pick them off.
Definitely.
And it's kind of an exploit, but to me it's not, because if you give me the ability to level my acrobatics, I can do that then in an actual setting if I was that kind of hero.
All's fair in love and war, right?
And gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like along those same lines, what we could do is maybe ask for bringing back some of the things, like acrobatics as a skill, as long as it's not like it was in Morrowind, where pretty much you just get to jump ridiculously high. The way they did it in Oblivion was way better. I would love to see something like that, but I would also like to see some of the old magics come back, particularly leap and levitate, as long as we're talking about it. So I really miss levitate because it was a good way to do exactly what you're talking about. Stay out of the range of enemies so that you have an advantage of them in combat. And it was just really fun, and I kind of miss it.
Yeah, no, those are actually things that I forgot about, except for the leap. I believe, was that that was more of, they had that in Skyrim as kind of a dragon shout too. What was it? Where you can speed in any direction by doing the Thune shout?
Oh yeah, that's the whirlwind sprint.
Is that what that's called? Okay.
But it wasn't a leap, but it was kind of like a sprint from one place to another.
Kind of like a blink in a way, but you could still get hit by stuff. Yeah, during it. So yeah. That reminds me of that. One thing that I loved in previous Elder Scrolls games was being able to create your own spells. And some people would say it's overpowered. Oh, it was. But the thing was, you can make some pretty badass spells, but you'd have to use so much of your time gathering souls and expensive soul gems to do it. My master spell was, it would be a huge AoE casting spell that I can cast at a direction, and like 50 feet within that radius, everything would be blown backwards, lit on fire. If I got caught in a radius, I'd be happy to wear my special gear I made that was fire resistant, and once any enemy that survived, it would stand up and have Berserker for like a minute and just kill each other. So I would just stand there, launch the spell, and continue to stand there for 1 to 2 minutes as 90% of the enemies in the room took care of themselves.
And you were impervious to the damage.
And then I would loot everything, and I was impervious to at least 95% of the damage.
Right.
So yeah, so that was one of my things that I missed the most. Skyrim still has enchanting, but obviously they're gonna keep enchanting. I want spell making back. That's
yeah, definitely.
unique.
As far as we're talking about like some of those kind of core mechanics, I think that we need to bring repair back.
Yes.
Having the durability of armor and weapons come into play, especially when you're investing so much time into not only creating the weapon and then sharpening the weapon and then enchanting the weapon. Like at that point, keeping its durability up should be a priority. As long as we're going to, dip into realism, exploring this deep,
I love the
magical
realism
world. Right? So we should bring back, if we're going to bring back spellcrafting, we need to bring back repairing the durability of our weapons and armor.
I want to know a little bit more about spellcrafting. Like, is there like a limit on the number of abilities you're able to combine in those spells, or can it just be infinite until it becomes like just some basically nuclear explosion of spells? Or do you have to like select from different elemental types and things like that?
Somewhat. There's a limit in terms of how much is reasonable or possible to spend, because there's these things called soul gems, and there's different levels of soul gems, some of which are very rare and expensive, but certain enemies would have certain amount of power that would be used in enchantments. So for instance, a grand soul gem, you'd have to kill an enemy with an equivalent grand soul to fill that, and then you need so many soul gems to do your spell. So it would be like, let's say you add an area of effect, that's gonna increase your soul gem charge, and then if you add multiple things onto that, not only is it gonna increase how much soul gems you need, but the more you add onto the spell, the multiplier goes up. So like the fifth thing you add, you're gonna need even more than you needed for the thing before.
In Morrowind, the system was that you were only really restricted by the amount of magicka you had. So depending on how long, what kind of duration that you wanted to have of your spell, depending on how many different things that your spell would do, it would cost a certain amount of magicka points. And so depending on how many magicka points that you had as a character, like it was really easy in the beginning to create a spell that you can't actually cast yet.
Right.
And then you have to level yourself up accordingly so that you can cast it at a reasonable level.
And that's the same in Oblivion too.
Okay.
Is eventually you're gonna have a spell really powerful, but are you gonna be powerful enough to cast it? And I believe
That makes sense, though.
Yeah. So, and in Skyrim they didn't have that, and that made me so sad.
I agree. But Skyrim did kind of push the boundaries in a lot of other ways.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm not going to hate on them, but it's like, hey, okay, come on, bring it back now.
Bring back acrobatics and magic and mysticism. Bring that back.
Mark and Recall. Like I want to touch on that for just a second.
Yes.
I really miss Mark and Recall, because even though the fast travel system is really great, I feel like having an instantaneous response in combat that can get you out is really versatile, and I kind of miss it. I miss it from Morrowind for sure. So I would really like to see Mark and Recall come back.
Yeah, and to touch on that too, I love to play, in terms of realism. I like to imagine I'm there. I like the game to be realistic, so I feel like I'm actually doing this stuff in a way. I play with a lot of realism mods and so on, so I never fast travel, because I think like what if something really did happen that would have killed me on the way? I just avoided that by fast traveling. So if you did have Mark and Recall, that's a lore-friendly way to fast travel, and I'm okay with that. And for those who don't know what Mark and Recall is, it was a spell to where you can mark a location magically, and no matter where you are, you can cast Recall and go back there. And if let's say you happen to be over-encumbered, so you can make your mark in the market, boom, over-encumbered, no problem, go back there, sell your stuff, away you go. Or let's say you're about to die, just go anywhere else, wherever your mark is.
Yeah, so you have like your sanctum, the place where you keep all of your best weapons and all your health potions and everything that you need. and you happen to be over encumbered with some really sweet loot, you can just hit recall and you go back to your crib, drop down your sweetest stuff, and then go sell the rest.
Sounds pretty nice.
It is.
It was really fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, it's like I used to do that in WoW and just hearth right next to, Innkeeper, sell off my crap, go to the bank.
Teleport back into the raid. But now in WoW they have the little gadgets you can build, the little robot guys where you can just sell your stuff to you right away, so you don't have to leave now.
Yeah, if you have the engineering.
Yeah. That's never going to happen in ElderScrolls, thankfully, though, because they try and keep it somewhat realistic. You just can't build something that suddenly can be a vendor now, you know what I mean? Like,
I think that I would also like to see from the next Elder Scrolls some more advanced companion AI.
yes.
I want to see companions doing like special maneuvers, even more so than what I did in Skyrim. I'd also like to see some companions with like maybe a tree that we can touch up on. Not let's necessarily like an entire celestial tree like we get, but like this, for instance, we have a warrior companion, right? So he has the warrior stuff available to him, at least to a certain extent. And we can kind of custom build our companions, especially because I know a lot of people who like to keep the same companion. My wife loves to keep Faendal. She grabs Faendal up in Riverwood. She has the same character she's always had, and Faendal is still her companion. And so we should reward players for doing things like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and they could even take that and add more extra depth to the gameplay, because depending on the companion's personality and their class, they can have certain trees that complement each. And let's say you can even talk to your companions one way or another that can convince them to be one way or another way. That can maybe even affect their tree or what's available to them.
That sounds really cool. I miss from Oblivion that nifty system that they had. It was a little too simple, but the way that you used speechcraft to gain information from players, it was interesting, and I'd like to see some sort of advancement on that. Maybe not make it as simple, a little bit more complex, a little bit deeper. I don't really have any ideas for that, but I miss that a little bit. I think that was something interesting that Oblivion brought to the table, and so that's something that could be explored in the next game.
That's essentially like making small talk with the townsfolk and increasing your talking
and
abilities.
Often, and how often do you really do that? And the way Oblivion succeeded in doing that is that it was almost kind of like this nifty little mini game, talking to people. And I think that was really wise. But I think it could go a little bit deeper.
I believe the only way... I'm trying to remember. I don't think you could increase any of that, any of your speechcraft or charisma in Skyrim just simply by talking to people. I know you can barter and increase your bartering skill by selling stuff, but there's...
if you successfully intimidate people, and you get information cues in Skyrim, you can get speechcraft bonuses, definitely.
Yes.
But they're few and far between in my experience.
Yeah, in Skyrim it was more like, okay, you leveled up and you have a certain level in your speech skill, so now you can spend a perk point to where you can intimidate people or coerce them better now. That's kind of how Skyrim did it, which is good. And then it will allow you to, like, unlock other things. But I still miss the ability to go and actually level up your speechcraft and have that be as more of a thing.
I think that's somewhat how it was in Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning as well.
Yeah, I haven't played that one, but I know it's really similar to Fable.
I don't think you leveled up your charisma by just talking. I think you had to select the little quips, like intimidating or snarky responses, but it's been quite a while since I played.
Yeah, Fable was more like, they say Fable and Kingdoms of Amalur are alike. I don't know. Amalur. Kingdoms of Apples are alike. But Fable is your speech skill is more like of your alignment, I suppose. If you were good or evil, it would change the dynamic of how your character looks and how other people perceive
and
you.
how people respond to you. Yeah.
If you're like full out evil, you'd actually grow horns and people would run from you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Which changes a lot of things.
It does, yeah. And you can gain those points simply by being a nice landlord and lowering rent prices across the kingdom.
Makes me think of how that goes with Fallout. If you're basically a jerk, you choose that path.
And speaking of Fallout, that's the most recent Bethesda game, and they did have good AI for your companion characters in that game. So I think whenever we get another Elder Scrolls game, that the AI should be pretty
I like that
good.
it was kind of based off of the relationship that you built with your companion and them watching your actions, and then your companion can build a judgment on you. Like, Codsworth does not like, when you're killing people.
Or when you do drugs.
Or if you steal or anything.
Right.
So.
Definitely.
It's like, sorry, sir, I don't like it when you do psycho. It makes you psycho. It's called psycho! What do you think it does to me, Codsworth? You start kicking him over. No, sir! Well, it looks like we're reaching a certain amount of time, which is a good time to say goodbye.
Sayonara.
And please, guys, comment
Have a
below.
day.
Have a day, yes, have a day, but make sure you comment what you like to see the next Elder Scrolls game, what you thought about stuff we said, or maybe just comment your favorite recipe for enchiladas, because we're going to take your comments once we get enough, and once they're flowing and going, and we're going to start featuring them. That means we're going to read them out loud, where you can hear them with your ears or your eyes if you're some kind of weird mutant.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun time. So make sure to comment, like, share, subscribe, do whatever the heck you do with those things, and thank you for watching.
Bye, guys.